Okay, I'm ready to get started now. Hello, and welcome to another week of Just One More Thing. I am Janessa. I am hosting solo this week. Um, this is a knitting and crafting podcast, and normally our little intro is I'm Janessa, I'm the knitter, and my daughter Brooklyn is the crafter, but she's at school today because today is Monday, the 13th of November. And yeah, so it's a school day. The weekend kind of got away from us. There were more fun things to do over the weekend than sit down and record a podcast together. We had planned to do it yesterday, but we were all kind of in a grumpy mood yesterday. Saturday was a really busy day. The cousins were down from Iowa. My sister-in-law's kids were down visiting for the long weekend, and so they spent all day Saturday running around, chasing each other, playing, having fun. And they were exhausted to the point where they almost went to bed at like 5 o'clock on Saturday because they were so tired. They ended up just taking a really late nap, but that also meant that they were up late on Saturday. So then Sunday rolled around and they were just kind of grumpy. And the last thing that either of them wanted to do was carve out the time for a podcast. So I told Brooklyn she could just skip it this week. She'll have lots to show you next week. She has been drawing like a fiend these past couple of days. So many pictures that she wants to share with you guys. But for today, it's just me back to solo podcasting. I hope that's okay. It's just going to be a lot of knitting. I am, however, going to take advantage of the fact that Brooklyn's not here to share some crafty Christmas ideas for your kids with you towards the end. Of course, I wouldn't be able to share these if she was podcasting with me because then it would spoil the Christmas surprise. So yeah, I'll share those towards the end. But for now, we can talk about all of the knitting that I am bundled up in today because it is cold. I love that it's cold. I prefer cold over, so I really prefer this like really cold fall, winter over hot springs and summers. So I am happy that I get to wear all of my knits, but I acknowledge the fact that I might look a little ridiculous, like bundled up in my house, wearing all the knit things. These are both things that you've seen before. The scarf, the headband, was a leaves lace. I can't remember the name of it. It was like leafy headband or something like that. I'll put the info up there on the screen. This is my I don't feel like fixing my hair for you today, so you're gonna get the headband. My haircut is at an awkward stage. A while back, like 2 haircuts ago, that's how I measure time. 2 haircuts ago, I get my hair cut pretty far apart. So it was probably over a year ago. I decided to undercut like all of this. Like I shaved pretty much, it actually ended up being like, we took like from here all the way around and shaved it down really short and left just the top long. Well, then, as it was like growing out, like right here in my part where my hair naturally parts, I got like these weird, they just kind of stuck up all the time and I didn't really like how it was looking. And I wasn't able to, the ponytail that I was able to get out of it was really, really thin and it just looked weird. So the next time I went back, I told my hairdresser, I was like, we need to bring it down a little bit so that we have more hair to pull up into like ponytails and buns and things, and less of it shaved down. But now as that's grown out, I have this really, really long part, and then I have this part that's about like that long, and it doesn't want to, it just wants to, it's too short to go up into the ponytail, but it's too long to look okay just leaving it down. it just looks really weird. So I've been wearing a lot of hats and headbands, and that's okay because it's cold and I can. So yeah, that's not so much because of the weather as it hides my many hair problems that I'm experiencing at the moment. This, however, has been my best friend lately. It's my starting point, which was a Joji Locatelli mystery knit along back over the summer. Spring, summer. And it resides on the back of my chair. And anytime my neck gets a little cold, I just kind of wrap it around my neck, and it kind of hangs down over my shoulders, and I can even do this little, whoops, like faux sleeve thing when my arms get cold. When I'm knitting, I kind of wear it like this, so that's like, it keeps my arms where I can still knit, but it keeps my arms warm, and I love it. But I do mostly just kind of wear it like this, like a blanket. I just kind of wrap around in it. It's a really nice shawl for that. So that's what I'm wearing. All old stuff. I even have a finished object for you guys. A couple weeks ago, I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw this post from Owlcat Designs. See that? Get the glare, there we go. And it was these adorable boot toppers that she just had over her jeans. And she was like, well, which color do you like better? Which one would you wear? I, of course, loved the brown. That was my favorite. But they were both super cute. And she mentioned that she was going to be looking for test knitters. So I kind of stalked her for a couple of days until she put out the call for officially needing a test knitter. And I PM'd her over on Ravelry, and she's like, yay, you can test knit for me. Here's the pattern, and go to town. So I got the pattern, I'll show them to you, pretty early in the morning, immediately cast on, and I had this main part of both cuffs knit by the end of the day, and then I did all of like the stripes and the embroidery the next morning. So I would say like a good day and a half-ish type knit if you're a fast knitter. They were super enjoyable to knit. I have an end sticking out right there, but I didn't trim off very good. I still haven't like officially blocked these, but I've been wearing them nonetheless. So I'll talk to you a little bit about, I did a couple of modifications, and when it's a test knit, I typically, and I think most test knitters would agree, work really hard to follow the directions to make sure that the product that you're getting from the directions are what the designer had in mind, and not try to like second guess the designer. But there was one little modification that I really wanted to make, so I emailed her before I started. I was like, hey, I really don't like seaming. Would it be possible to do a provisional cast on and like Kitchener or 3 needle bind off at the end of this main part of the cuff? And she goes, oh, sure, that's fine. That's fine. Just make sure you note it in your project page, which I did. So that was kind of the one major hack that I made to the pattern is, I don't know if you can see it right there. I Kitchenered the piece together instead of seaming. This one, I kind of messed up a little bit. I somehow got like an extra row of knitting in between, and so you can kind of see like right there where it's seamed together. It's a little bit more noticeable along the back, that seam where I Kitchenered, than on this one where I was paying attention and didn't have the extra row. Like you can still kind of see the seam, but it's not nearly as noticeable. So that was the one little pattern variation that I made. I also got to learn how to do the Fun Daisy embroidery stitch. And so you can see that I really went to town on like, how many loops do I like? Do I like just a few loops? Do I like 5? Do I like more? I went really crazy with this one and I did a whole bunch, but then I ran out of yarn, so it doesn't, like this one doesn't look right. I should have. Anyway. But yeah, it was a super fun knit. The color combos was the funnest part to try and come up with, because you can really go crazy and wild with your color combos. It's worsted weight yarn. I used Wool of the Andes and size 7 needles, I believe is what the pattern called for. And on hers, she did flowers in all of the contrasting colors. So you need like 1 main color and 4 contrasting colors. And my 2 browns are really close together, so they're kind of hard to see from far back. They kind of melt into each other. But those are contrasting, and because those contrasting browns were so close to this olive green, I didn't think the flowers would show up very well. So I just did flowers in 2 contrasting colors and made them a little more kind of sparse. The other recommendation, if you decide to make these for yourself, when you're doing your contrasting colors, maybe grab a card and like wrap a bunch of your main color around it, and then do just like a couple of wraps of each of the contrasting colors, just so you can kind of see how that stripe sequence is going to look. When I started, I had this really dark brown as the first color, and then I did the yellow, and then I did the medium brown, and then I did the green. And I didn't like that. I didn't like how it looked. And so just changing the color combo, putting the browns in the middle and the 2 lighter colors on either end, really changed the way that it looked. It made a big, big difference. And when I talked about that, choosing colors, Simone, who's Alcat Designs, said the same thing. She's like, you know, it took me a couple tries to get the right color combo. Like, I knew those were the colors I wanted. It was just getting them in the right order that made a difference on how the finished object looked. So you might play around with that too if you're doing them. Brooklyn has already requested that I do some of these for her. I can reach the yarn without knocking everything over. I'm going to do some for her. I'm going to use this purple as the main color. It's a really like purpley purple. And then for the contrasting colors, I'm going to use this really kind of light pinkish purple and that kind of denim blue. And so like those 3 colors. And then I have a, it fell out and went down on the floor. So I don't know. Oh, here it is. And then that, like that gray, as my contrasting colors. So she's going to get a pair. Emerson claims he wants a pair, but I don't know that he would really use them very much. So I don't know. He might get something else. But Brooklyn definitely says she wants a pair. So at some point, after I get done with a lot of got to knits, when I have time for some fun knits, I'll cast that on. But I have quite a few things on my needles that I need to get off the needles before I start those for her. So maybe for her birthday, which is in January, she'll get a pair of these. That would be a good birthday present. And hopefully by the end of December, I have all these other things off the needles. So that was my finished object. Alcat Designs. I think they're going to be called Flower Power Boot Toppers, but that name might change, she said. So just keep an eye out on her Instagram. And there's even a hat to match. That's fun too. My other thought when I was doing these, because I do like to kind of hack a pattern every once in a while, would be to move this cable either probably down quite a bit, like maybe have the cable be like right here, and do, instead of flowers, do like evergreen type tree embroidery up here, you know, kind of just around, and have it, I don't know, I thought that might be kind of cute too. Just kind of do the change. Or if you're a Stranger Things fan, you could leave the cable where it is and do trees on top and then upside down trees on the bottom and have Stranger Things boot toppers. would be cool, right? You heard it here first. Give me credit if you do that. But not really. I'm sure other people will have the same idea. Anyway, we will move on from that finished object and talk about what's on the needles. But first, I need a coffee. Okay, so one of my friends who was having a baby was supposed to be having the baby at the end of this week, and she had it last week. So it came just a little bit early, but I had planned to have like all of this week to knit the baby blanket. That didn't happen. So I've cast on for the baby blanket. It'll be a late gift. But I'm basically just doing a log cabin type blanket. It's all garter stitch. I'm showing you the wrong side, I think. No, I'm not. Yeah. Because there's my little front side marker. I just have ends poking through over here is why I thought it was the wrong side. So I'm knitting this out of the Knit Picks Color Mist, which is a Pima cotton, and it's kind of speckle dyed. And I know I've got two of the colorways in here. River Bluff, I think this one's also River Bluff. I know I showed these on the podcast before. Oh, River Bluff, Foggy Beach, and I don't know the other one, but here's kind of an example of what it looks like balled up. So they're just these really kind of nice, really minimal kind of speckled yarns, and they're so soft. They make the perfect baby blankets. So I'm not really following a traditional log cabin pattern. I'm just using the method of log cabin to kind of play with it as I go along. When I do log cabin blankets, instead of binding off like you're supposed to at the end of each little section, I leave those stitches live so they're easier to pick up when I get to them. That's one of my only tips that I have when doing a log cabin type blanket. I just put a really long piece of scrap yarn in there. So yeah, I'm just kind of making this up as I go along until I get a blanket of adequate size to be able to gift to her. So there's not a whole lot to talk about there. I am using size 7 needles. It's a worsted weight yarn. And just a whole lot of garter stitch. Garter. I need to find a really good, maybe I need to like go put in like a Doctor Who binge or something to get through all that garter stitch. Something that's got a lot of episodes that'll keep you interested, that you can just mindlessly knit away at. The other thing that I have been working on a lot is my Chasing Rivers shawl. I just about have samples done. I've been working on those. The pattern is tech edited at least once. I have 3 different ladies who I contacted because I'm kind of, since I've never had a tech editor for this first pattern, I decided I'll get multiple tech edits done on it and kind of combine all the best ones and make sure it's all like nice and neat. Oops, sorry. And then just, you know, be able to find that person that I click with. Oh, I've got the hiccups. And then, you know, going forward, it would just be tech edited once. But I do have at least one of those tech editors have gotten changes back to me, and I've made those changes. So later this afternoon, I'm going to put that call out for test knitters on Ravelry, on Instagram, and on Facebook. So if you follow me on any three of those places, you can, I'll put an email in all of those places where you can reach me. If you desire to be a test knitter, and I will get the patterns sent out to you. It is a pretty bare bones pattern at this point. I don't have pictures put in. I'm still working on getting really accurate final measurements off of the samples. And I'm working on a tutorial for part of it to be able to do cables without a cable needle. And that's all kind of happening today. So the pattern's really coming together. I'm really hoping that by the end of the year, I have this ready to release into the world for the public. I'm excited about it, but I'm also like a little nervous about it. It's one of those like, oh, I never thought I would do this kind of experiences. But yeah, it's coming along. I cast on last night to do a little swatch of the cable patterning, and in order to do a tutorial, I felt like I needed to show people how to do that as a right-handed knitter and not a left-handed knitter. So I cast on just to show you guys that I can. I am able to knit right-handed, but as you can tell, my gauge is much tighter. And but yeah, I'm still able to do it. Cabling without a cable needle, doing it all right-handed. So I'll have that tutorial will be available with the pattern. I'll have a link to that with the pattern, because you have like all of these are cables, and then you have like all those cables. So by the time you get up to, 200, 300 some stitches, that's like a lot of cabling to have to do with a cable needle. And they're not large numbers of stitches that you're twisting. It's like 1/1 and 1/2. So that to me gets to be it gets to be a hassle having to like keep your cable needle out for all of those. So I think cabling without a cable needle might come in handy for that, and I'll do a tutorial to help people learn that skill if they desire. So that's been the bulk of my crafting time. On Saturday, I did go to my Fiber Gals group that I started spinning with again, and I spent the day spinning. It's still that Freckle Faced Fibers, the brown fiber that I've showed quite a few times. Basically, I have 2/3 of it done now, and I just need to do that last third and get it plied. But like I said, I have a lot of other things that I have to knit. I have to get this shawl done. I have to get the baby blanket done. I have to get my mom's vest, the buffalo vest, done. Those are my top 3 priorities. I have the Under the Willow shawl and the outing shawl still on the needles. I have another baby blanket on the needles that I want to get off the needles before I start anything new-ish. I don't know. It's just I got a lot of stuff to do before I can really focus on doing a whole lot of spinning. Or like I basically take that one day a month now where I'm like, I'm going to spin for that one day a month. I want to be able to do it more, but I'm just, this time of year I seem to always be running out of time to do that stuff. I'm sure you guys feel the same end of year gift knitting crunch as I do. So let's talk crafty Christmas gifts. Both of my kids love crafting, and they like being crafty. Brooklyn more so than Emerson. But, and here's a mom tip for you. If you have family members that always say, what do I need to get the kids for Christmas? What do the kids want for Christmas? What's on their wish list? What should I get them? I have started a kids wish list on Amazon so that I can put all of their things on there. And even if they don't actually shop on Amazon to get these things, they can at least see the product. Because a lot of times my kids want something, and then my mom will email and be like, what's that toy that they said? I don't, because they're not up on the toys or the characters or any of that stuff. So it's kind of hard for them to shop for those things that the kids really want and that they ask for, because They don't know what they are. So when they can actually see it on Amazon, it makes it a whole lot easier. And instead of like typing it out every time a family member asks, you can just be like, oh yeah, here's a link of stuff that it's like a Christmas registry for your kids, which I have mixed feelings about, because I always get a little guilty about like the commercialization of Christmas, but that's a rant for another day. Anyway, I want to show you some of these that I found. So this one is one that both of my kids would enjoy, and it is, let's see if that'll show up on there. Yep, it will. The Harrisville Pro pot holder looms and loops. I am not a stranger to the pot holder loom. I think I probably had a really cheap one when I was a kid, and I've spent many a day at like camp doing pot holders on looms that, you know, were so it definitely is, I think, more enjoyable when you have a loom that you know it's not going to break. And these are made of metal, so they're not going to be like cheap plastic ones that break. And the loops that you get from them, I think, are of a bit higher quality than the kind of loops that you find in a big box store. And I believe they have both wool and cotton. I've only seen the cotton so far, but somebody told me that they also have wool loops. I don't know. But it's Harrisville is the brand behind them. And I got turned on to these because I was watching Amy Beth on Fat Squirrel Speaks. And her daughter has one of these. Her daughter is pretty close in age to mine. And she was talking about that. And the other thing that I really liked about the Harrisville ones, when I went on their website, they had tons of different colorways of loops. So like, instead of just getting big, like randomly assorted colors that you might not always like, you can get like really specific colors that that go together well, so that you get pretty pot holders, not just like, oh, a kid made that pot holders. But I know for sure Brooklyn will enjoy it. I think it's also something that Emerson can kind of get behind and do a little bit of too, because the concept's pretty simple. So that will probably be like a shared gift, if not a gift for Brooklyn that Emerson ends up stealing. The other one that is definitely Brooklyn centric was gel pens and a really big sketchbook. And the sketchbook, I mean, the gel pens are just gel, like 180 different colors of gel pens. Woohoo! Who doesn't love a variety of colored pens? I kind of want some for myself. But the sketchbook, art alternatives sketches in the making, very big hardcover, giant sketchbook, 600 pages. So it's like 300 sheets of blank paper, which is like a ream of copy paper, but it's in a hardbound book. And she's getting to the point now where, like the spiral bound books, you know, pages get lost, somebody tears a page out. She kind of wants something to keep like her really good drawings in. And I thought it might be kind of a fun keepsake for her to look back on one day, to have like a hardcover bound book of all her drawings. So I thought that would be a good idea for if you have an artist in your life who likes to draw. That would be a good combo. Another one, so this combo, she came to me the other day and she just wanted to sew fabric together. She wanted me to get the sewing machine down and teach her how to sew, and she just wanted to sew scraps of fabric together. Like, she didn't have a project in mind. She wasn't wanting to make a quilt or an outfit or anything like that. She just wanted to physically like sew things together. And I remember going through that phase when I was her age as well. Like, I just wanted to learn a craft. I didn't necessarily want to make something. I just wanted to learn how to do it. But I wasn't old enough to like let my mom, you know, use her fancy sewing machine to teach me, or like, you know, one of those things. But I found this little like tiny miniature sewing machine that's like an actual sewing machine, just in very miniature size and at a price point that I can get behind, and a book on how to sew. And I thought that would be a fun one for her as well, to get that and just kind of let her do her thing on a tiny sewing machine that doesn't take up a lot of room, and use like some of those, like the jelly roll, the pre-cut jelly roll type, you know, square, the charm packs, and just kind of let her sew some stuff together and see what happens. And the comments on the sewing machine were that it was pretty easy to use and pretty easy to thread. And I don't know, maybe I'll get a lot of use out of a tiny little sewing machine too, because Lord knows I fight like heck with my big one, that I always have to like reteach myself how to thread every single time. It's always such a pain, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if I'll end up, I haven't really decided for sure what we're going to get for her for Christmas. And then the other one that I thought was kind of fun was this little, yarn tree kit, and it basically is pieces of wire that come in tree form, and I'm sure you probably have to like wrap the wires together or something, but then you just wrap them in yarn and then you can hang your jewelry off of it. And that's a craft that I won't have to help her with. That's one of the biggest things over the years when she gets these little crafty kits, because my family knows that she likes this stuff. So we've gotten quite a few crafty kits over the years, and most of the time I end up doing the craft because she can't do it herself. But I think all of those were ones where she could definitely, like the pot holder and the yarn tree, and to an extent the sewing machine. I think she can kind of do all of those things herself without a whole lot of help or supervision by me. Now for Emerson, he's not so much the crafting kind of kid, but I did find these two things that I'm having a little like parental debate in my head about. I'll show them to you first. So one is the Lite-Brite, which I think you can all understand what that is. And then this stem set, these Zoob building pieces. The Lite-Brite was a toy that I had when I was little, around his age, that I loved. I think he would love it too. But it comes with a lot of tiny little light bulbs. A lot of them. They're basically miniature little Christmas lights that you shove through this thing, and it, you know, the light bulb behind the black paper lights them up. The Zoob thing comes with 175 Zoob pieces and like rubber bands and balls and all this other kind of stuff. And the only thing that goes through my head with both of those toys is he's going to love them. I'm going to hate them. And all of those pieces are going to get lost. And that's the reason I'm going to hate them. Is because I will be vacuuming, you know, he'll like love it until the point where he's lost all the little light bulbs. Or he's lost all the little rubber bands, or the rubber bands have broke, or they're, you know, it's one of those like, how long will it be fun, and how much of a mess am I going to be dealing with? 11 years later, well, no, not 11, 10 years later, I am still finding random Lincoln Logs from the very first set of Lincoln Logs that Brooklyn got when she was a baby. That, you know, she was never able to build any houses with because all the pieces got lost. And then, you know, we eventually got rid of most of them, but then every time we go to clean out the closet in their room, here comes a random Lincoln Log. And they're like, oh, a Lincoln Log. I didn't know we had Lincoln Logs. I'm like, well, we don't. We got rid of them years ago, but here's a random one. So I know that's going to happen with these. I just know it. But they're going to love it. But I don't know. Do you spend money on something that you know is just going to get lost? For the fact that like they're going to enjoy it for a couple of weeks? Is it worth it? I don't know. That's my big struggle with those. The other one that I think they actually will both get a lot of joy out of, but mostly Emerson, is the Osmo came out with the new game that's combined with Hot Wheels. And we have a lot of Hot Wheels. And so it's like you put the Hot Wheels in the track, and then it comes up on the screen, and you do things with the little coins or something to make them race through a scene on the iPad. So those are kind of the Christmas crafty, not, most of them are crafty. The ones for Emerson are not so much about craftiness as they are about having some sort of practical learning skill behind the game, and not just a game that makes noise. Does that make sense? Like the Osmo games are kind of meant to help build like math skills or reading skills or coding skills with the Osmo stuff. And that Zoob one is kind of like engineering, STEM, math. So I can kind of get behind those as toys. The others, the Light Bright, the pot holder, the sewing machine, that's all pure craftiness. So if you have a crafter kid in your life, those might be some ideas for them that they would really enjoy. All of them, I believe, were under $30, so score there. You don't want to break the bank on gifts. Other ideas I had for kind of crafty kid Christmas things that and these are mostly geared towards Brooklyn, who is 10, almost, she'll be 11 in January. Because she is my crafter. She's the one that really loves doing the crafty things and the artsy things. Some other ideas I had for her were to get her some classes on Craftsy.com. So they have like drawing classes, how to draw the environment around you, kind of one that's more geared towards illustration and cartoony type drawing, which is something that she really likes right now. She enjoys more of the like bubbly type drawing, the cartoon characters, than she does like real life drawing, even though she's good at that part too. So getting her a couple of those classes, or if I get her the sewing machine, maybe getting her like an actual here's how to sew type class, because those are things I can't really teach her all that well. I can offer advice, but I'm not great. Like drawing isn't my forte. I can do it. I can trace really well. I understand theory behind a lot of it, but practical, like here's how you do it, I'm not that great at it. And especially with sewing, like I can show you how to use a needle, and I can show you, you know, really, really basic stitches. I can kind of coach you in how to go to a straight line, but that's not something I'm good at either. And solving problems when it comes to sewing, forget it. I have to call my mom or my mother-in-law. Help! I don't know what I'm doing. Come fix it. So some Craftsy classes I think would be a good idea to get her. The only problem with that is we don't give our kids a lot of free access to the internet. They have iPads, but they don't have web browsers. I've disabled the web browsers on both their iPads. Brooklyn she can search for images on her Osmo thing, but it's got like a parental lock on it to where she can only search for like certain images, so that it's not just the whole wide world of images open to her on that. So they don't really have access to it on their iPads. And my computer, like we don't really have a family, we have like my computer that would be unusable to me while she was watching it, if she was watching Craftsy classes. Usually like with YouTube and stuff, if she's watching a YouTube tutorial, I let her watch it on the big TV because we have the Roku. So she's able, because, you know, that's like out in the middle of the living room, and I can really monitor what comes up as far as like suggested videos to watch. Like, oh, no, you don't want to watch that one, kind of, you know, kind of monitor that. I'm really careful about just giving them unfettered access to the internet at this point in their lives. Emerson's way too young. Brooklyn's still learning how to discern, you know, that just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's a trustworthy source or a good site to go visit kind of thing. So she's still learning those skills. And so, yeah, I don't want to just, that's my only problem is like Craftsy is a great site. And I could, if I knew that she would only go to Craftsy and that nothing else would like pop up on there, I would totally, you know, if Craftsy had an app, Craftsy needs an app so that she can only access Craftsy classes and not all the other stuff. Because that's my only thing is when she put the internet on there, it, I don't know. Anyway, parent problems are this week's theme. Parent guilt, parent problems. I would love to know what you guys are thinking about for the crafty kids in your lives, or any suggestions you have on accessing safe sites without having to like shut, you know, and still being able to shut down like everything else on the internet. Because in my experience, I found that even with a good like parental lock, they're still able to access some things that you don't want them to have access to. So anyway, that's all I have for this week, and I see by the timer that I've rambled on for like 40 minutes already. So who knew that just me talking could make such a long episode? Alright, well, have a great week. Stay warm, keep knitting, and we'll talk to you soon.